Guys, this video is brought to you by our friends at Lucy. Lucy was founded by Caltech scientists on a mission to reduce tobacco-related harm with a tobacco alternative that doesn't suck. As former smokers dissatisfied with traditional nicotine options, they knew there had to be a better way for adult tobacco users. This is a big challenge, and guess what? They did it with their innovative nicotine gum. With 4 milligrams of nicotine in each piece, you can get a dose anywhere, anytime. I always encourage my friends who smoke to choose Lucy gum over cigarettes or vapes for all the obvious reasons. As you know, nicotine is addictive, so use discretion. Lucy gum comes in 3 delicious flavors. You can get it in wintergreen, cinnamon, even try the pomegranate. Visit lucy.co. Use the promo code Chael20. I'm going to get you 20% off your entire order. That's lucy.co, lucy.co, or just click on the link in the description. Guys, remember, nicotine is addictive, so use discretion. Odds came out on Usman versus Covington, and Usman is a favorite, almost 2.5 to 1. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's almost a 2.5 to 1. Does that surprise you? And if it does surprise you guys, look, we got to have the same conversation with this rematch that we have in every other rematch, which is what's going to be different and why. And you've only got a couple of things you can turn to. Well, this fighter has done these matches since, and here's techniques and positions he found himself in that were not done the first time, and I think that that will help to level the playing field, right? That's what you have to do. Otherwise, you're just saying things. And saying things isn't wrong, but that doesn't give us a lot to talk about. We don't get to argue now. We don't get to have a debate. You have to be able to turn to something that happened, historically speaking. Covington has only fought one time, and that was Tyron Woodley. And he looked amazing doing it. He looked in large part a lot like what we thought he was going to try to do to Usman, which was some ground and pound. Covington was able to get to T. Wood, and he tried to get to T. Wood. He was able to keep him down, but he tried to keep him down. I bring those words to tried because Colby never once tried to take Usman down. Now, that was a huge surprise, and that shoe is on both feet because Usman, who's a great wrestler, never tried to take Covington down. Many of us thought going into this fight, well, one of these guys is going to be a better wrestler, right? Don't you remember the dialogue? Usman's a Division II champion and Covington's a Division I All-American. What's better, the Division II champion or the Division I All-American, right? You were getting these wrestling debates. But that was the narrative to coming in. Now, if one of these guys had failed to get the other guy down, one of these guys defended his opponent from getting him down, that's not what happened. Neither guy tried for a takedown. That was a bit of a surprise. But we also found out how damn good they are on their feet. We've seen Colby before look great on his feet. You'll remember the match with Robbie Lawler, by example. But Colby had Robbie guessing nonstop. Colby was punching and kicking and elbowing and kneeing and then changing elevation. It's the same thing he did with T. Wood for a more recent example. He didn't even try to take Usman down. So there was something that Colby saw, and there was something that Colby felt that told him that would be a waste of energy. The same thing is said for Usman. Usman saw something, felt something, had a respect for Covington. Some reason he never went for it. I bring it to you because if this fight's going to be a stand-up fight, which one of them has shown more gains and growth in their stand-up? Now, that doesn't constitute who the winner is going to be, but now we have a jumping-off point to at least start talking. You would have to give that answer to Usman. Usman's the only one that fought on his feet. He stopped Gilbert. He turned Masvidal sideways. I don't think I've ever seen a fighter get turned sideways because a punch was so hard, right? You see this, like the timber? Turned him sideways. So, got big respect for Usman's hands, don't we? But the problem with hedging that bet is we have not seen Colby get beat on his feet, right? We've seen great offense by Usman, but we haven't seen a lack of defense by Covington. No one's hitting Colby. These fights that Colby's having, even when he's mixing up before he gets in and drags you down, he's not getting hit in the process. It's one of those things where you go, okay, I think, my opinion, after analyzing this, you got to throw it out. We haven't seen anything from either one of these guys since that will lead us to a conclusion that you're going to have a significantly different match. All right, what's the next criteria? Next criteria is what's different. What is different, if anything? And there's something for each of them. Colby has left the American Top Team. That stayed fairly quiet. I think about the 8 months that it's been, I think you guys have all heard this because Colby did stay in Florida. And there was talks that he was going to leave the top team. But we never got a final conclusive answer. Like Dan Lambert, by example, never came out and said, Colby is gone. But Colby is gone. And Colby is doing his own thing. He's got his own place that he shows up with a couple of workout partners and a coach. So he has very individualized and specialized attention being put on him. I haven't seen enough of Colby to tell you definitively, but I have spoke to Colby, and Colby loves it. He says he has never felt better. And he stated for the reasons that I just said. First off, I got a lot of the same partners I've already trusted, the same coaches that I've always been with and trusted, but I have more attention on me. I have full focus, and that's a real thing. I'll tell you, that's a real thing. There's some damn good coaches out there. And if you're in a room and you love your coach, but you got 25 other guys in the room, you go the course of a 2-hour practice, how much, just if you do the math, just as a divisible, how much time in a 2-hour practice, if it gets spread over 25 guys, is the coach looking at and assessing you? So in Colby's situation, it's now every minute. It's every second. It's every practice. And he feels as though it's helped him. Usman also left his gym. Now, Usman left Florida, went out to Colorado, but he's looked fantastic since. What is it that he's worked on? What is it that he's learned? I don't know that we can put our finger on that. I'm not convinced that the days of Kamaru Usman taking you down and beating the hell out of you are gone. I don't think that Kamaru Usman had any other strategy in the George Masvidal fight than mix it up just a little bit so I can get on those takedowns and try to beat the hell out of him. He was just so good on his feet, it never got to that point. I don't think that Usman's just thrown out the strategy and fallen in love with his right hand. I really don't think that. I think Usman went fully into that fight knowing what he does well, going to press George into the fence, pick him up, put him down, and go to work. It just didn't get to that point. So now the question's why? Did he get good punch? Landed him with that one good punch? Or is that specifically what Usman's working on? Usman has never had air balls. He's never had an issue where he's throwing things and they're missing. He can't find his range. He's never had that, but he's at next to zero since he's been in Colorado. That is a very fair observation by me. I have not seen Usman reach out and try to touch someone and miss. Everything he does touches something. So it's one of these things where it is clear just within his accuracy, just within his timing, and I'm perceiving power. I'm perceiving power because he's put two guys down. The truth is, Usman's always hit like a freaking truck. But there's a perception of power now because he did finish with stand-up attacks his last two opponents, who happen to be, right? One was the number one contender, the other's the reigning BMF champion. These are hard guys, and he's stopping them. So there's at least a perception of power. Will that power, if I'm right, if Usman's stand-up's a little bit crisper, will that encourage Colby to then go for the takedown that eluded him for the first 4 completed rounds and the half of the 5th round that was completed in the first fight? Right? But this is what you're looking at here. We cannot come to the conclusion that Colby can't take down and beat up Usman. We can't conclude that Usman can't take down and keep Colby there because neither of them tried. That's the elephant, or that's the missing link here. Neither of them tried to wrestle. They got into a fisticuffs. Every time Colby would get hit, he'd get pissed off and want to hit him back and would. Now Usman's pissed off. He's got to hit him back. They just did that all damn night long. It's an interesting fight. And what can we make of it? What have we learned? What do we know about these guys that's different? I think you're going to have a hard time answering that question. I'd be surprised if you come to an answer and a response that is any more in detail than the one that I just gave. And when you look about, okay, well, what's different? Their teams are different. Sometimes that can be a positive. Sometimes that's a bad. Generally, guys never stay the same. When they trade camps, you usually have a definitive, okay, he got better. Oh my goodness, he shouldn't have left. It's very rare that guys stay the same. Both of these guys believe that they got better. You're back to a wash. You're back to a wash in the closest, dirtiest, hardest fight I've ever seen. You're back to a wash, but the lines say Usman is a 2.5 to 1 favorite. I'm asking, do you agree?